I'd love to welcome two friends and two thought leaders in the GLAMP arena, Craig Bullock and Emily Hughes from Orange Logic. Emily and Craig have put together a presentation, a conversations, and some thoughts about ensuring digital legacy, unveiling the essentials of digital preservation. It's so special to all of us that we in this community can encompass a broader, in-depth, resilient, and grounded meaning in these words. They're not just superfluous rhetoric, they have real meaning. And Craig and Emily, thank you so much for the work you put into this. I'll turn this over to you, and it's great to see both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and welcome everyone. By way of introduction, I just want to step in here and introduce myself and then my colleague as we kick off this conversation around dam and preservation. Craig Bullock with Orange Logic, where I work as head of industry for our GLAMP customers and really be able to take dreams, aspirations, and mold them together in a way that I feel is not just educational for myself and my team, but has really made a mark here in the industry. And to bring in my colleague here, Emily, I have to share a quick story is when I was at a career fair in high school, I had aspirations to do dreamy things like that. And that being an architect, I had a draft table at home. I enjoyed the process of it. I liked taking my ideas and putting them on paper. And so I sought out at that career fair the architects. And we had a great conversation. And I was hearing all the things that I wanted to hear around that dream, that aspiration. And as we were finishing that conversation, I looked to the left, and over there are the engineers. And one of them caught my eye, and she says to me, "Do you understand the difference between the architects and the engineers?" And I really did not. I wasn't sure where she was going with this. I thought they're all kind of the same. And she goes on to tell me that, hey, your dreams on paper, we engineers, we make them happen. And I wouldn't be here today, and this organization, Orange Logic, wouldn't be here today without engineers like my colleague, Emily Hughes.
Thank you for that lovely intro, Craig. Hello, everybody. My name is Emily. I am excited to be working in lockstep with Craig in our digital archives and heritage collections as his solutions engineer. So as we go through today, I'm looking forward to helping you ensure that we can maintain your digital legacy and that everything that you put into your dam is as protected as the artwork on the walls of your institution.
Excellent. Great to have you, Emily. So for today's conversation, and that's truly what it is, we wanted to bring together the essentials around digital preservation. And these essentials we've gathered through our conversations with our peers, all of you, the practitioners, also partners and customers who bring us relevant, new, and timely ideas. And with that, I think it's important also to extend the congratulations, the kudos that David had around the certifications and those who are going above and beyond maybe what their organizations expect and are doing more in this industry because you're bringing us these ideas. So to us, preservation is forever. Really no pressure, but truly we think about it as forever. And digital preservation refers to the series of really managed activities that are necessary to ensure your continuous access to digital materials for as long as necessary. Again, we're thinking forever. Preservation is not merely about saving data. It's also about ensuring it remains accessible and understandable over time, despite the rapid obsolescence of the technology and some digital formats. This process is crucial for maintaining your cultural heritage, scientific data, and even legal records for your future generations. So in the digital preservation space, what are the common challenges that we're all experiencing? Well, one of them is the rapid pace of technology change. And something we want to talk about a little bit is formats becoming obsolete. And the software to create and read those digital formats becomes outdated. And then physical media to store those file formats can deteriorate over time as well. These are probably things you're thinking about. Additionally, your sheer volume of digital information being produced, it poses a significant challenge for your preservation efforts. So we think about the now, but forever and over time, that volume is always growing. So today, as we move forward, we're going to get into some of the strategies and effective digital preservation practices Some of these key strategies include things like file migration, regular backups, also being able to emulate the environments that you work in today. With all of this, it's important to understand we think about your different stakeholders too. And you shared that in direct dialogue that, hey, what I understand and what I can do as, say, an archivist, conservationist, even as someone who works on the donor side, we have different use cases around how we need to preserve materials. Okay, so last thing, ultimate goal here as we move forward is digital preservation is to protect your legacy from the threats of digital obsolescence and loss, ensuring the future generations can access, can use, and learn from those digital resources. All right, so Emily, where I want to go next is talking about the tools. And tools being digital preservation, refers to that managed activities, that series of managed activities. What are the common tools that we're hearing about having to solve for and really want to learn about more as we continue this conversation? All right, for starters, I'll kick it off. Fixity checksums. And for those who maybe aren't familiar, because I certainly wasn't 18 months ago, how are Fixity checksums used today? Fixity and checksums, they're foundational tools in digital preservation. We know that they're used to ensure integrity and authenticity of your digital files. So integrity and authenticity. A checksum, you can envision it, practice it. It's an alphanumeric string of generated numbers, alphanumeric, but it's used through a cryptographic hash function. And this process is creating a digital fingerprint. That's what we need to care about. That digital fingerprint then can be used to detect any changes to that asset, any corruption on that asset that may occur over time. Okay, so think about this as your digital fingerprint for your digital files, and we're able to authenticate and ensure integrity. And why is this important? Well, for a few reasons, obviously, detecting unintended alterations. So something has changed in that format, we need to replace it. Something maybe a bit rot, some data corruption. Also that we need to ensure nothing's been tampered with. That change wasn't maybe malicious or intentional. Ensuring authenticity again, providing that trust mechanism for how your archives can maintain things such as provenance and integrity. And going a little bit further here, the immediate impacts we hear about is there's irreversible damage to valuable files and assets, but also the loss of historic and cultural data and scientific data too. That having that fingerprint tied to data, that ultimately erodes the trust. And that's what it comes down to with a lot of our stakeholders is not just we need to meet our policy, but we're keeping and earning more trust here. So, Emily, I want to take a second here. You have a solutions engineer mindset, and I'd like to understand a little bit more about how can all this happen? We talked about the why, but what about the how?
Sure. So anytime an asset is ingested into Cortex, it automatically pulls out that checksum or creates a checksum for it. What this does is it allows us to follow that file no matter the cloud storage provider or the location on your dam. So even if you're in deep glacier, we can still make sure that the integrity of that file is there via the checksum without having to download it and bring it out of that cold storage. In addition to checksums, that digital thumbprint, fingerprint that Craig mentioned, we have a visual hash, which plays into duplicate detection. So not only are we able to maintain the integrity of your files across your different storage buckets, we can also go through those storage buckets, use the checksums to pull out any duplicates. Those would be files that are exactly the same, no differences between them. But then we can apply the visual hash check, and that goes in and pulls out files that aren't exactly the same. Maybe one's a JPEG and a PNG, or a TIFF, or another image format. This will say, hey, you have some that look the same, but their checksums are a little bit different. So there's a double-edged benefit of being able to run checksums. Also, if that checksum bounces back as corrupt or inaccurate, it will automatically fire an email off to our DevOps team, and we'll investigate that and replace as we need to.
Awesome. It sounds proactive. And with that, it moves into our next topic. We'll happy to answer questions on Fixity and checksums, but this one also is the thought of like proactive, anticipating what we should be doing as a preservation policy. And ultimately, I'd like to help you refine your policy or help you build a policy if you don't have it already and create a plan from all this. This topic on file format obsolescence. It's something that maybe the digital creators on this conversation and archivists think about in the sense of like, hey, if it's digital, we're good. But backing into it, the migration step here, file migration, is proactive again, strategy focused on transferring digital materials from outdated formats to a current format, and also more sustainable ones. And that piece of sustainability is important too. But we go back to the process of why we preserve and the why of it. It's that ongoing access over time and generations. So essentially, preventing format obsolescence where files become inaccessible because software or hardware required to use these, it's no longer available or even supported. You can use maybe the digital media format and VHS as an example, right? So combating this technological obsolescence, it's really about thinking, if this evolves, how can I keep it updated and migrate to those newer formats? And that's going to ensure your accessibility. So we think about, okay, it's preserved, but the value is in accessibility. So we want to keep up-to-date formats, make sure they're accessed, make sure they're available on current technology, really facilitating broader dissemination and use. Really, last part here, there's an element I'd like you to touch on, Emily, which is those steps, like regular reviews, standards, what happens if, and how someone can rest assured that obsolescence is something you're always ahead of.
We can work with you and your team to determine your file types and the best steps of action to ensure that any obsolescent files are able to be remedied and transferred over to the more recent file types. We can do this with you on a library level or on an individual asset level.
All right. And with that, so things change and they tell a story. And audit trails as an essential part of your preservation toolkit. Audit trails are really indispensable, in the ecosystem. They ensure that integrity, they ensure the security, the reliability of the digital archives. And again, it fosters trust among your users, your contributors, your stakeholders, even donors. And there needs to be meticulously documented interactions with the files. And they not only protect against threats, but they also uphold the principles of transparency and accountability at your institutions. Some of the impacts here, like enhanced accountability, that detailed log that we think about with audit trails, if we ever need it, it's there. The improved security by tracking all interactions, any changes, any identified or unauthorized access, ensuring a timely response to, so that things are date stamped. And then at the record level, the provenance, authenticity verification. The audit trails, they facilitate that verification of a digital object's provenance and authenticity by maintaining a chain of custody throughout. And so that's essential for legal, for scholarly, and even cultural heritage purposes. Emily, thinking about this, again, engineering hat on, audit trails, we can have a lot of it, but I think it also matters to like how we make sense of it, how someone can utilize these. Can you share more on that?
Absolutely. So as Craig said, the audit trails tell just as much of a story as the assets that they are auditing. So this will tell us if we've moved storage groups, if we've changed metadata, or if the asset has been moved from folder to folder on purpose or accidentally. This allows us to see who made the change and easily be able to revert those changes. But that's on the asset level. This is available, audit trails are available on the folder level, as well as on the user level. So if somebody changes their name or changes anything about their profile, you'll have the record of everything in the system.
Okay. Excellent. And into now virus checks. So this is something I know we all are familiar with. We know how they're crucial to measure the process and aimed at protecting your collections from things like malware and viruses and so on. So why talk about it? Well, it's essential. Really want to highlight that the risks here of data loss and data integrity is it's timely. It's something that's unfortunately making news headlines, and it's something that should be revisited. So I was working in DAM for about 7 years and stepped away from the industry before coming back. And in that time I stepped away, I went into cybersecurity. It's very enlightening to understand how some of these attacks work and what the most common errors are. Virus checks are one of them. We'll touch on a couple others, but just to highlight it is that they're not just a technical necessity, they're a fundamental part of your stewardship. Like, they have to be. This should be a point to look at your policies and understand how virus checks happen in your environments. Do a regular check and check in with your providers, and have your standards that you stand on. So with that, we like to think about it as an ecosystem, virus checks happening, but also how do we ensure, should something bad ever occur, we are prepared. But we want to touch on the disaster recovery plan here. Having a plan that clearly outlines the responsibilities and expectations for all that can be repeatable. And Emily, this is a part I need to step back, because this is really something that you are apt to cover on.
Disaster recovery is a huge part of what we do, and it goes in several different directions. But what I want to talk about today is ensuring maybe you have multiple cloud service providers so that you're able to ensure your archive is preserved safely in different silos. Relying solely on backup copies of digital assets stored within the same storage provider could potentially leave your assets vulnerable if they are linked or duplicating in that same cloud provider. By utilizing multiple storage buckets and providers, you're able to really silo out your archive and ensure that whole backup is protected. And those fixity checks that we talked about at the very beginning, those are running across all of your storage providers, no matter how many you have and what you have on deck.
Thank you. Okay. We're keeping the security realm for just a bit more. And I want to go back to the definition of preservation as well as your role. And part of that being you're charged with preserving. It's an ownership level here, but why is security paramount? What are we hearing? It matters. I mean, for all the things, but protecting, preserving that property, ensuring long-term access, and maintaining trust. That trust factor is so important for your sustainability efforts, your donor relationships, and just in general, trusting how you work. What we often hear about, see things like data breaches, data loss, corruption. These are issues that are happening out in the industry that customers come to us and ask for, how do you solve? And in any of those cases, everyone has their standards that they should consider, and also ones that maybe they haven't considered. And with that, Emily, I want to get your feelings on security here as we move forward into compliance and attestations.
Absolutely. So as you can see, we work with other clients outside of the GLAM space. We have FINRA, HIPAA, several other certifications. But how this benefits you as a GLAM client is because we are covered in other ways. So we have HIPAA certification for some of our healthcare clients. This goes back to those audit trails, as that's one of the main tenets of HIPAA certification. So when we have other clients that have security compliance requirements, we're able to rise all of our clients and ensure that you are on the same secure foundation as healthcare companies, as financial institutions. In addition to all of these compliance requirements, we constantly, every year, run our own pen tests. That's a penetration test. That's essentially someone coming in and trying to break into Cortex in some way. But now we're starting to see our GLAM clients ask for that same level of security that our financial and healthcare clients are anticipating and requiring. So we see compliance as anticipating your needs. Whether you're a healthcare company or somebody's personal archive, you're going to have that same foundation of security to know that you're protected. And when you're going through and RFPing and RFIing different vendors, make sure that your DAM provider is looking out for you and looking to the future. to know that you and your digital assets are just as protected as they are, again, in your institution.
Very good. Thank you, Emily. Okay, so we're nearing the end here, I promise, but there's a couple things I want to leave you with in the realm of security, and that is around different security checks. So there's an element to the human factor. We know this. We understand that when it comes down to it, social engineering is a threat vector, a very good one at that. And this is something that in policies, preservation policies, or cybersecurity policies at institutions, more of this being added. And so you got to think about, even when you're testing systems, what are some of those social engineered approaches? Be it sharing logins, unauthorized access in that way, having the audit trails to track this down and the like. So these are exercises you could and certainly should do with your systems. Emily, a little bit more there with just continuous evolution and what's going on. Touch on again the proactive approach. You should have vendors who are partners in this. They should have their compliance security resources ready and available for you. It should be part of your review with them to revisit those certifications, attestations, and make sure they are remaining compliant. Again, it's a matter of this industry upholding standards, moving those standards, those goalposts, and we as vendors are obliged to partake and meet those. So with the time we have left, we just want to extend an offer here. If you have questions, we'd love to answer those now. We'd like to invite David back into the conversation too. And if there's anything that you have questions on, you want to ask direct, our information's here. We also have our booth open all day. We'd love to connect with you there.
Great. Craig and Emily, thanks. Here's an interesting observation. Be curious to get the benefit of your insights into. Born digital artwork requires a deeper level of security and access. Curious if you've had the opportunity in this journey through the GLAMP sector to take a look at any of the specifics or idiosyncratic aspects of born digital artwork. Is it a super secure cloud vault kind of necessity? Is it easy? I'll stop meandering. Turn it over to you.
I'll let the engineer express or tell you what's real. I'll express that. Oh, sure, it can be easy, David. We can dream that to be easy. Emily makes it practical and logical.
Absolutely. So anything that is stored in your cloud is going to be secure. When it gets into NFTs or any of the born digital artwork, we need to work with you to see exactly what your specific requirements are, whether it's some type of blockchain configuration or any specific type of vault passwords, or even storing them in a section of your DAM where only specific users are able to access them beyond smaller proxies to preview them and see their assets. This is something that I'd like to learn more about, the born digital and the side of NFTs and the very secure requirements that are needed for the born digital artwork we're seeing these days.
Yeah, I think there are other lessons that we will learn from NFTs. One of which is that they are ascribed I think this is correct English, a valuation. So it's a pure digital object. It's got content of sorts. It's got representational iconography. It's got metadata, and it has book value. So therefore, the stream of considerations around its security and around insurance open up a whole different set of dimensions that I believe will become connected with the field of digital asset management in the coming year, where we finally got enough accounting law and some other legal adjudication around NFTs to start changing this conversation about the value of a digital asset, the insurance of a digital asset, how do we parse remediative events for binary versus metadata recovery situations, if there is a hack or if there is substantial damage from a flood. For all of you here from California right now, although someone did comment, greetings from sunny San Francisco. So, and that's just as an observation to share that I think from an engineering point of view, this will continue to provide interest, diversity, and growth to where our brains have to go. and opportunity for how we talk about objects within the GLAM sector and outside. A question came in, kind of an interesting one, and we heard a bit about this from the Ashmolean. Have you seen any tools or processes that you use to help evaluate files after file format migrations to ensure that there's still integrity from the migrated object over to the destination?
Absolutely. And once our files are uploaded into our system, we're able to view them or silo them out if there's any corruption or anything that isn't a fully intact asset. That's the word I'm looking for. A fully intact asset. And we can silo that and run reports and then follow up on what happened there. We don't have a specific tool for that. It's all built into the upload options via web upload or our external uploading feature.
And we had a question come in, Emily, to ask you to kind of unpack a phrase that both of you used. What does pull out checksum mean? Can you validate a checksum? Can you submit a checksum to validate against one made when it hits cloud storage? So just to pull the covers back a little bit in checksum land.
Absolutely. And this is a great question. I saw it come in, but didn't have time to answer it during the chat here. So when an asset is uploaded, there may already be a checksum embedded in. If there is not, Cortex will assign a checksum. That's what I mean by pull out a checksum. If there's one embedded, it will pull out the embedded information and then apply it as a Cortex checksum from there. On our reports section, on our back end, you're able to run a checksum verification. And so it will search through everything and look for any duplicates of that checksum to find duplicates. But on the asset itself, you're able to, if you need to, run a checksum validation across all of your storage locations on a per asset basis. As I mentioned before, this is constantly happening in your system, and those emails will be sent out if anything comes back without a perfect match. And that goes straight to our dev operations team to go in and figure out what might be happening with that file.
Great. Thanks for that, Emily. An interesting dialogue that's occurring in a lot of DAM growth and DAM acquisitions right now was captured in a very thoughtful question we got. Have you worked with any clients that might require hybrid cloud solutions due to digital file sizes, such as commonly 4K video assets, or is a fully cloud model for the system really the way to go? So there's a substantial question and then kind of a trend line question in there, and love to get benefit from your insights on this.
We can build a hybrid on-prem cloud solution. This brings a host of technical potential snafus, though. As we have to have access to that server, we'll have to coordinate. The cloud way we found is generally the best way for our clients. And we are able to have different storage locations. For instance, we just rolled out a LucidLink integration where you can store those giant 4K videos on a local LucidLink driver, and then Cortex just thinks it's all in the cloud. That allows you to bring up those 4K. I literally just tested this today. A 1.5 gig video loads in a few seconds rather than having to actually download it. So it's really, really impressive. So I would suggest utilizing the best cloud storage options available and moving it all to the cloud.
Well, I know it'll be quite an evolving, this is an evolving conversation. How's that? And of course, speaking of LucidLink, if anyone has not seen The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, which was produced on LucidLink technology, if you want just your heart and your life to grow and get some warmth, it's so much fun to watch. And I encourage everybody to do that. And I also will encourage everybody to watch the insights that Emily, you, from a technical point of view, you, Craig, from a sector point of view, continue to bring to the GLAMP world. These are important conversations from the vendors who are here today because you get to do this all day long and help define the arc of the horizon that both we listen to through you and we hear about from you. And in that context, I'd like to thank you each for the preparation that you did for today, for your sponsorship at Henry Stewart. And I look forward to seeing you again, probably at DAM LA, I'll betcha. And thanks for your engagement in the GLAMP sector. Much appreciated.